Don't know. Do I need to put on my video?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you can, it's
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, still in the office. So, uh, thanks for the opportunity to just take you through this very important topic. I think it's important. Managing through challenging economic times. In Nigerian, I've added the subtitle in Nigerian perspective because I think it's important we talk about our immediate environment. And I think that's where um, this is where we are located, and this is where we want to know how to manage through this quite difficult period. And I know it's not an understatement when we say this period is really difficult. It's quite difficult, and we need to be able to what's it called? Wow, what's happening to my? Sorry, I think something is wrong with my uh, PowerPoint. Let me just look for it and get it out. Yeah, so this is a challenging period, and I think it's important we all learn how best to navigate through a difficult period that may what's it called, may last a bit longer than most of us want it to be. Uh, my first question is, what makes this a tough economy, or what makes this a tough economic times? And one of the biggest challenges we're facing currently is a cost of living crisis. And in economics, we measure this by basically looking at inflation data. And if you look at inflation data currently, as of May, inflation stands at 34%. And normally when we say inflation, it just shows, we call it a price index. That's how fast prices are changing. So it's like driving a car and somebody is driving at 10 kilometers per hour and someone is driving at maybe 300 kilometers per hour. The guy driving at 10 kilometers per hour may be slow, and then the guy driving at 300 kilometers per hour, you know that he's maybe heading towards a very, uh, what's it called? He's almost likely to get an accident. It's the same thing with inflation. The average inflation rate in most developed countries is an average. Is recently when they had inflation as high as 4 or 5%, they were complaining that they were in a crisis. So basically, inflation shouldn't be, for developing countries, we always say inflation should be an average of 10, 12% maximum. But in Nigeria, we have inflation at almost 3 times that rate now. So that means basically your prices are changing far faster than in most developing countries are changing. And that's why when you there was a time you go into a supermarket and they refuse to put the price tags on the goods because they may need to change the prices before the close of day. So that's how bad inflation is. And that's for headline, we call it headline inflation. Besides headline inflation, we have something we call food inflation. Food inflation is at 40.6% as of May. And that's crazy. That's basically prices increasing at a very fast pace. In most parts of the world, food inflation is at 2%, 3%. And so when you have food inflation in Nigeria at 40.6%, it's crazy. So that's why when you see things like rice or price of a bag of rice at 80,000, 70 to 80,000, whereas last year you were buying it at 40 something thousand. And so prices of rice have more than doubled within a year, and most people's income have not doubled. So basically, what we say in economics is that we're having a cost of living crisis currently. Um, and what does this mean practically? We're talking of practically, it means changing spending patterns. So you are spending more of your money on food. Research has shown that on the average, most Nigerians spend between 50 to 60% of their income on food. That was before the current prices. So basically, if I don't know, most of us don't track our expenses. But if you were spending 50 to 60% of your income on food and food prices double, that means you may end up spending 60 to 70% of your income on food or 80%. If you're spending 80% of your income on food, on the average, transportation takes another 15%. So if you're not careful, you're already running into deficit by the time you spend by the time you eat and transport yourself, you have almost nothing left over, and that's very dangerous. So when you have a great number of your population, when you have a greater number of your population spending 50 to 60, 70% of their income just on food and transportation, that basically means greater number of your people will fall into poverty. And that has a lot of implications for the economy. The IMF predicts that I think by the end of next year, almost nearly, I think 25 million Nigerians would have fallen into poverty, extreme poverty because of rising inflation levels. So that's how bad inflation is. They call inflation is like what's it called? They call it an invisible tax because it takes your income from you without the government directly coming for it. It just takes away your income. So that's how bad inflation can be. It just wipes you out gradually over time. And so most governments around the world do everything they can to keep inflation low. Because if inflation keeps rising, it changes a lot of things. It just makes a lot of people poorer and more desperate. How is this impacting a lot of the economy? That's why I don't know if you followed the news recently, you see that a lot of multinational firms are exiting the country. Why are they exiting the country? They're exiting the country because people's incomes are getting lower, so they can't afford most of the things they are buying, though they are selling. So if they can't sell those things, then they don't need to stay here because they're making losses. Most of them actually ran into heavy losses as of last year. So most of them decided to change their business model or just get out of the country. So most of them took their exit out of the country. Well, they were replaced by other companies, but then you now talk of issues of quality and the kind of goods they are doing. So we make some jokes that we are getting into a sachet economy where a lot of goods that people can sell in bulk, they are breaking it into sachets so that a lot of people, as people are getting poorer, they can still afford it. Besides exit of multinationals, yeah, you're also seeing business adjustments and downsizing. A lot of business are downsizing, and that means they're laying off staff. Those they can't lay off, they're asking them to take pay cuts. If they can't take pay cuts, then they close departments that they think are not profitable. Those are some of the things businesses are doing to survive in this economy. It's a tough economy, so most of them have to do what they can to survive. One of the impacts of inflation is also the fact that it leads to rising interest rates. Why does it lead to rising interest rates? To curb inflation, the central bank has to raise what we call the benchmark interest rate. Every 2 months, the central bank meets and sets what we call the monetary policy rate, which is like a benchmark rate for all other type of interest rates in the country. So because one of we call it orthodox way of curbing inflation is to raise interest rates. When you raise interest rates, people borrow less, people have less money to spend. And so because they have less money to spend, they don't, inflation, we call it a monetary phenomenon because with more money in circulation, prices rise. So the central bank to take out money from circulation just reduces, raises the benchmark interest rates. And when it raises the interest rates, all banks simultaneously raises interest rates. And as they raise interest rates, people borrow less. As people borrow less, less money circulates. And if less money circulates, then inflation is supposed to go down, assuming it's a monetary phenomenon. But although there are other theories that shows inflation can also be a cost phenomenon. It's cost push because rising goods, what's it called? Rising inputs, they are pushing up inflation. So that's another way inflation goes up. But yeah, but basically the immediate response of the central bank is to raise interest rates. And if you check since the beginning of the year, central bank has raised its interest rates from about 18.25% around January or December last year. December last year, at up to May. I think they had their last meeting May. It's gone as high as, I think, is it 24.75% currently? I think either 24 or 26 point something percent currently. That means all banks have to also increase their interest rate. So most likely the minimum interest rate you get from most banks now is around 30%. So if you're a business and you're borrowing 100,000 naira, you're supposed to pay about 30,000 naira per annum on that figure. And that means you must make profits in the range of 50,000 naira to be able to cover your cost of money alone at 30,000 naira. So you see that cost of doing business has also gone up significantly because cost of financing has gone up. So, and if cost of financing is going up, cost of doing business is going up, then businesses have to raise their prices also to be able to recover. But most businesses can't raise their prices totally, so they have to absorb some of the cost. And that's why most businesses have to downsize to take part of the cost that has gone up. And that leads to higher unemployment, low. So it's a complicated economy. So when you look at the economy now, that's why a lot of things seem to be falling apart, because these things are like disruptions in the economy that has to be dealt with. They can't be dealt with overnight. It takes a longer period to stabilize the economy. I don't want to go into the history of how we got to where we are today, but because that's another long story all the way. But yeah, but that's why we are, basically the government trying to solve a problem that possibly, I won't say they created, but then they have to look for a way to resolve it. And that's why we are struggling with so many things at the same time. Then another challenge we are facing is the sharp devaluation in the Naira. So the Naira has lost about 70% of its value since June last year. We had two major devaluations, one in June last year when the government came into power, and another one in January last year. Currently, we are having a lot of instability in the currency. We are averaging somewhere 1,500, still a lot of pressure. So that devaluation also impacted a lot of businesses. What did it do? Erosion in local asset value. So if you had 1 million naira in the bank before, as of June or as of May last year, you could buy maybe $2,000 with it. As of this year, you can only buy how much? Maybe less than $300 with that same amount of money. So erosion in local asset value, property assets, properties, and all other things, their values have been eroded by the sharp devaluation in the Naira. Also, it means business growth. So most businesses have seen their valuations significantly drop because of the erosion, because of the drop in the value of the Naira. So if your business was worth $1 billion before, suddenly you realize that it's worth about $300 million now. That means the implication is that if you were going to borrow money from abroad, before now, at 1 billion, possibly you could use it to borrow 30% of the value of your business. That means you could borrow $300 million. At $300 million, you can only borrow like $30 million. And that means your ability to invest in the economy drops and your ability to expand drops. So those are significant implications for you because of the sharp devaluation in the Naira. Your growth figures have been distorted because if it's converted into dollars, Instead of you growing, you're actually shrinking. So anybody looking at you from outside, you are no longer as attractive as you used to be because of a sharp devaluation in the currency. What you also get is a sharp rise in prices of dollar-linked goods. We all have seen that when you go into the supermarkets, any goods that has a price that is linked to dollars have jumped up significantly. So those ones are the knock-on effect on other prices. It's always funny when you see people say, hey, but the market woman doesn't import his goods, but his or her goods, but what's it called? The prices are going up. The prices are going up because the dollar woman also goes to the market and wants to buy an imported item. Either the clothes she's buying is imported or what's it called? Or the shoes she's buying is imported. Those prices have gone up. If those prices have gone up, then she needs to also increase her prices to be able to afford those things. So when there's a devaluation, it has a knock-on effect on all other prices because we are all in the same market. Jump in cost of manufacturing inputs. Yeah, a lot of manufacturers have inputs that are dollar-linked. So all those ones are easily go up because of the devaluation in Naira. Then we have in the most funny one, or the one most of us are familiar with, jump in japa cost. Before now, 2-3 years ago, you could easily japa with maybe if you had 5 million Naira, you could do that. But now you may need somewhere 20 million to do the same thing. So that's what happens when the devaluation happens. But was the devaluation needed? Sadly, I would say yes, it was needed because we held the devaluations is linked to inflation. You can't be having high inflation and your currency is stable. It's a bit technical, but I would say, yeah, so if your inflation is high, naturally, as your inflation increases over the years, your currency should be devaluing at almost the same rate. So if you want to keep your currency stable, you have to curb inflation. So inflation, that's why inflation is so dangerous. All economists do everything they can to keep inflation low because inflation can do a lot of damage to your economy and cost of living of your people. So I think one of the primary reasons for the existence of government is to keep inflation low. And if you go into history, the history of money and everything is all about keeping inflation low. Sadly, we've not done that so well. So that's why we are having a lot of the challenges we are having. Coupled with money and inflation challenges, we also have had the issue with energy costs. Tariff for some customers have gone up as high as 200%. Petrol prices have gone up 300%. Should petrol prices have gone up too? Sadly, yes. We were also kept petrol prices at levels that are unsustainable. We are still doing that. We are keeping it at levels that are unsustainable. Sadly, they may still go up again. They may still go up by 100%, 100% or more again, because current prices are also not sustainable. These are the mistakes we made in the past. We are still making them, some of them till now. So those prices are going to keep going up because you can't run an unbalanced economy for too long without everything exploding. We tried that in the 8 years of the previous government, and we are paying a heavy price for it. If we continue, we'll keep on paying a heavy price for it. I'm hoping if questions are asked, we can explain some of these things later. Diesel up 70% to 100%. Yeah, diesel prices has also gone up significantly, and that's also largely linked with the dollar devaluation, with the devaluation of the Naira. Then we have rising costs for businesses amid declining purchasing power. So one of the biggest challenges businesses are facing is that people can't afford a lot of things. Meanwhile, their cost of doing business have jumped. So that way, their margins, profitability margins are shrinking. And once they are shrinking, that means they have to cut down their operations. And one of the areas they do easily is to cut down the number of people that work for them. That's one of the easiest way to cut down cost of operations. And so is a big challenge for a lot of businesses. They are struggling to survive in this economy we are in now. Insecurity, in between this, we are also dealing with the issue of insecurity. So these are basically what you look at when you see the economy. When you're sitting down and you're looking at the economy, it's painful, but this is what you see. So insecurity is also going up. You're seeing bandit and terrorist attacks in the north, abductions in places like, surprisingly, Lagos and Abuja, which shouldn't be, because that's your commercial and political hub. And so if you have abductions there, it has an impact on how people feel. People's perception of security has a very important part to play in how economic activities. If they feel secure, they will engage in more economic activities. If they feel insecure, they will, They will play less part in economic activities, and that affects the economic health of the economy and the individual's ability to make money. Worsening separatist agitations in the Southeast, that we all know how that has impacted on the economy of the Southeast. Increasing fear of social unrest. So there's this risk, there's this fear, perception that the country could blow up at any moment. That's also not good for the economy, because that means a lot of people are not making long-term plans. They are making short-term plans, even short-term investment decisions. Economies survive better when people can make long-term decisions. So when you have all these issues coming up, insecurity, fear of social unrest, worsening, abductions in your commercial and political capital, you make people make short-term decisions, and that's not how an economy performs. You want people to make long-term decisions. That's where the economy survives. And amid all this, you have a sense of a paralyzed government, because you're not seeing the government take action against most of these things that are happening. You want to see the government take action and see the government act in such a way that gives you confidence. That is not happening. So I've painted a lot of gloomy picture of the economy. So my next question, are things going to get better? The answer is largely yes, things are going to get better. Rate of acceleration of inflation is likely to slow by year end. So when we say rate of acceleration, so inflation is growing at 34% currently. We expect that by the end of the year, it would have dropped to somewhere like 20-25%. What does this mean? It doesn't mean that prices will come down to where they are. Prices are where they are now. They will not reverse. They are likely not to reverse. So a bag of rice is very unlikely that you will ever buy a bag of rice for 40,000 again. The chances that the only way is that you may never buy it at 160,000 if inflation decelerates. So it may likely end up staying at 80,000, but you won't see it come down to 40,000, most likely. So that's where we say inflation has decelerated. It's not like prices are going to drop. It's just that they are not going to rise as fast as they've been rising. And even if they rise, maybe instead of moving from 80,000 to 160,000, like it's done in the last 1 year, it may move to 100,000 instead. So when we say inflation is slowing down, we are not saying prices are coming down. We are just saying that the rate of increase is not as high as it used to be. Then another thing is the worst of the Naira devaluation likely already happened. So Naira has devalued from somewhere 700, 800. We are now 1,500. We don't expect to see Naira at 2,000 Naira. We are likely to see it at 1,300, 1,500. Maybe it may even end the year at 1,400 or thereabout. But we don't expect it to move to 2,000, 2,000, 3,000 Naira. Caveat, provided the government doesn't get stupid. We may go into that later, yeah. So we don't expect it to move to 3,000 Naira. Most likely we've seen the worst of the Naira devaluation. We expect it to stay around where it is currently. Cost of living to stay high, yeah. So the cost of living in the country is going to remain high. It's not going to drop. It's going to be where it is now. is likely not to get worse than it is currently. We may get a bit, fuel prices may go up slightly, not slightly. Fuel prices are likely to go up significantly, but diesel prices are unlikely to go up above where they are. Tariff prices for Band A people may not go up beyond where they are currently. And so, so things, we may be at the worst end of the crisis, mostly, or near the worst end of the crisis. More businesses likely to close. Yeah, more businesses are likely to close. Household income will remain under pressure. Yeah, because a lot of companies can't afford to increase salaries. So all of us will continue to have pressure on our incomes. So these things are not all gloom. So where are the opportunities in this? Assumingly looking, what's it called? This gloomy picture that I seem to have painted. I said not all gloom. Where are the opportunities? One of the biggest opportunities, which everybody points out to, is Nigeria's big population, 200 million people. 200 million people need to eat. 200 million people need to travel. 200 people need somewhere to sleep. 200 million people need a lot of things. They need clothes to wear. They need shoes to wear. They need everything you can think of. 200 million people. Very few. Nigeria is 75% of West Africa in terms of population. And even in terms of economy, we are 75% of West Africa's economy. But in terms of population, we are huge. We are the biggest in Africa and one of the topmost in the world. So you have 200 million people who are all around you looking for one service or the other. How do you position yourself to be able to provide that service? 200 million people also means cheap labor. Sadly, it sounds crazy, but yeah, that also means cheap labor. A lot of people are there looking for a job, and they are ready to do it for almost a pittance. I'm not saying take advantage of it, but yeah, but that gives you an opportunity to start something if you want to. Cheap goods for export because of the devaluation of the naira. A lot of goods in Nigeria are cheaper than our neighboring countries now. So one of the basic economic reasons behind devaluation is that it makes your goods cheap and ready for export. So can you take advantage of an export market? What can you export? It doesn't have to just be goods. You can also export your skills. And so if you're able to export anything, even worth $100 currently, the equivalent is almost 150,000 naira. So if you're able to import anything that gives you $100 a month, a week, 2 weeks, you're making money. So you're making money in naira terms. So what can you export? What can you do? That's the advantage of devaluation. How do you take advantage of devaluation to export something out of the country? Then increasing internet penetration for tech-focused entrepreneurs. So the internet is nearly getting to most parts of the country now, besides the commercial hubs of Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. So there are other towns that are emerging with good internet links. So if you're a tech-focused entrepreneur, how do you take advantage of the increased internet penetration to sell goods that are based on the internet? Not to sell goods, but to offer services that you can use the internet to sell, or you can use you can sell online. Those are some of the. Then one of the good things about Nigeria is a green business environment. Lots of opportunities to pioneer stuff. So I was just talking to somebody was talking to me this afternoon about a new business they just started, taking advantage of the increase in energy cost because electricity prices have gone up. Diesel prices have gone up. A lot of companies are looking for ways to avoid using diesel and electricity. So this company, what they're doing now is providing these companies that want to avoid using electricity, battery-powered equipments, including forklifts and all the other things that normally would depend on heavy use of electricity. This company is now providing companies with battery-powered alternatives. So they are helping them save cost on energy. And that way, they are making a lot of money from doing that. So those are some of the ways you can take advantage of your environment. Yeah, everybody is shouting energy costs have gone up, but that also is an opportunity. And this company has seen an opportunity in that and is taking advantage of that now to help companies diversify away from energy, from high cost energy to low cost energy and making money from it. So those are some of the ways you should look at the challenges around you. Low competition. Nigeria is not a preferred business destination. Most people don't like coming to do business in Nigeria because it has a very bad perception out there. That also means that's also an advantage for those of us who are trapped in Nigeria or who are in Nigeria, because that means if you see an opportunity, most likely the competition for that opportunity will not be very high. Most people you'll be able to take time to settle into that opportunity and make a lot of money before others see that opportunity. So that's something you could take advantage of. The worst of the reforms partially over. So, as I said, since last year, the economy has changed significantly. And I think from my perspective, the worst of the reforms may be over. Well, we are at the top, almost at the top end. They could still get worse, but not as the transition to the change is not going to be as dramatic as we've seen in the last 1 year. So the worst of the reforms are over. So the basic thing is everybody is settling in. There's been a shift in the economy. It's how you settle into that shift that matters now. How do you take advantage of that shift? So this is the time to start looking for ways to take advantage of that shift that has happened in the economy and make some money. And I said, what can you do? Don't be caught in the gloom. There's a lot of bad news everywhere. So don't be caught in the gloom. Look beyond the gloom around you. What can you see beyond? As they say, there's a silver lining behind any dark cloud. So where are the silver linings that you can see? Network. Don't stay in your zone and not look around you. Where can you do good network? Network that gives you opportunities, that lets you know the opportunities that can you collaborate with people to do one or two things takes advantage of the opportunities around you. Listen to news. A lot of us don't read a lot. We don't listen to news. You need to read and listen to news. Take advantage of listening to what's happening around you as much as possible. There may be opportunities. Don't listen to criticize. Listen to see where are the opportunities. What is the government doing that you can take advantage of? There's a lot of, every time the government reads the budget, this year's budget is 28 trillion naira. There's a lot of, that opens a lot of opportunities. That's 28 trillion naira worth of opportunities that has just been opened when the government reads the budget. How do you take advantage of it? Where is money going to be spent? Student loans are being sent out. Can you take advantage of it? There are so many things that are being opened up. So then I also say be environmentally aware. What's happening around you? I always say goes this way. For example, there's a Lagos-Calabar road being built right now. One part of the road 100% will be built because of self-interest of the political players. Is the Lagos to is the Eco Atlantic City to Lekki Deep Sea Port end of the road. That I'm 100% sure will be completed, and I'm already seeing work being done on it. Where does this lead? Where are the opportunities? Or let's assume even the Lagos-Calabar road will be finished. What are the opportunities that could be opened up along that axis because of this new road? Can you take advantage of it? Can you take advantage of the Calabar end? If this road is going to open a road that goes all the way from Lagos to Calabar, does it mean that you can position businesses in Calabar that would directly benefit from the Lagos market? If you've been to Abuja, you see that it's growing very fast. I'm thinking that in 5 years, in 10 years, Abuja will compete favorably with Lagos. Can you take advantage of it? what other cities are growing. Look at what's it called? When Geometric just set up in Aba, that if Geometric succeeds, Geometric succeeds, it will significantly change the environment, the Aba environment. Can you take advantage of it? So sometimes you have to be environmentally aware. You don't just be locked up in your space and think there are no opportunities outside your space. You need to look around you. What is news? What's happening around you? Where can you take advantage of? What can you take advantage of? And then position yourself accordingly. We're talking to someone and he was saying that since they started the Lagos-Calabar road, some of the parts that they are already working on, prices of properties have more than tripled along those houses. And I think that's going to be the experience all the way to, at least from from Ekwa Atlantic to Lekki Deep Sea Port. All the properties near or around the Lagos-Calabar Expressway will triple up to that end and maybe beyond to Ogun State. Can you take advantage of it? What can you position yourself along that road? So basically, sometimes we are all tied up in Lagos. Where are the opportunities outside Lagos? Where the cities are growing? I know Akwa Ibom, Uyo was growing very fast one time. I've not been there, but yeah. But you look at cities that are growing. Sometimes you don't just have to sit in Lagos and say Lagos is in all. What can you do? Are there things that you can do at emerging cities that are growing very fast, and that if you position yourself there, maybe 4 or 5 years time, you'll be in a position to take advantage of the opportunities that have emerged. You'll be one of the first movers in those environments. Those are some of the things you should take advantage of. And they say cultivate your challenges. Yeah. So your challenges can be your opportunities. If you take time and see the challenges you are facing, most likely 100 people are facing the same challenges. 1 million people are facing those challenges. Can you turn those challenges into opportunities by helping those who are facing similar challenges to resolve them? Those are most of the tech startups. That's the idea behind most tech startups. Not just, so you have a lot of people in the agri sector doing agri-tech, doing health tech, if you study all those businesses, they are solving particular challenges that they found in that environment. There's this tech startup called Vendis. Vendis started because the owners found out that most restaurants find it very difficult to source their ingredients for their food. So what did they do? They just set up a platform where restaurants can concentrate on just doing their business, and all they have to do is go open a Vendis platform. And when you open the Vendis platform, you can order for all the ingredients you need for your food, and they will supply it to the restaurants directly to their doorstep. So they don't need to step out of their environment. And then all they do is concentrate on their cooking. So Vendis is becoming very popular among restaurants. They're just connecting all restaurants in Nigeria to that platform now. And then on the back of that platform, they are offering other services too, including loans to the restaurants, because sometimes they don't have money to buy the ingredients. So they give them loans, and then they charge interest on that loan, and they make money from it. They're offering them accounting packages, so they don't have to worry about how they keep their records and everything. So yeah, so you need to look around you and see the challenges that people are facing, and then see whether you can quickly turn those, provide a solution to. So my next thing I say, be solution-minded. Don't be locked up in a problem mindset. Be solution-minded. What can you do around you to solve a problem? And can you commercialize that solution? That's the way you should always think in this challenging environment. There are challenges, but those challenges, if you can turn them into opportunities, then use your data and phone wisely. Most of us get so enmeshed in our phones that we don't, we don't raise our heads to see the opportunities around us. I want to be fast. I see that it's almost 8 o'clock. What can you do again? Get an education, preferably foreign if you can afford it. We can always talk about that later. Get a skill, preferably an exportable skill. be on top of your finances. It's not necessarily what you earn, it is how you spend. I'm always, if I'm a fan of this, most of the time people say I don't earn enough. But I always say it's not how much you earn, it's how you spend what you earn. Save, it does not depend on your income. Most people say I don't earn enough to save, but this thing is my mantra is that if you don't earn it, you don't. If you don't earn it, you don't spend it. So if you can set up a direct debit on your salary, so that even if your salary is 100,000, please, if you can save, you must try and save at least 10,000 every month. Just do a direct debit on it. 10,000 every month to buy 1 year's 120,000. 120,000 can, I know it doesn't look like a lot of money, but possibly it will help you pay maybe a special, what's it called, a training that you need, maybe a website, learn this website design or something. You can use it to buy a skill. You can use it to go to one dead end of one place that looks like a dead end now and buy a plot of land. I always say when you're young, no place is too far to buy land. You can go to a place that doesn't look so normal now and buy a land and then maybe leave it there. As you grow, that place becomes a town someday. So those are some of the things you could do. Explore. Where are the upcoming opportunities? As I said, where are the upcoming opportunities? My theory is that Lagos, for example, is moving from, in those days, Ikeja was Lagos, then it became VI. My theory is that in 10 years, it will be Ibejuleki or Eperia. That will be the Lagos. That will be the side that people will be looking at. So it's not just Lagos. You go to Abuja, I think Abuja will be competing with Lagos in about 10 years in terms of even commercial activities. If geometric work, Aba or Abia State will be competing with a lot of other commercial areas. There's Port Harcourt. So the question is, where are the upcoming opportunities? You need to be environmentally aware and watch out for those opportunities. Don't caught up in the political bashing. Yeah, we all like bashing politicians, but most of the time there are no rewards for it. You need to look beyond the political bashing and look at the opportunities around you and see what you can do. Then pray on your knees, but do not stay on your knees. That's my last word for that. Thank you. That's my short presentation. My leave with my favorite Bible text, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. So that's all my lesson. That's Jeremiah 29:11. That's all I have for the presentation today. Thank you. Hello, I hope I wasn't talking to myself.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Tony, for the lecture for this evening. And as far as I'm concerned, it was really expository because a lot was said. And I want to also believe that it was the same with everybody on the call this evening. It was really, really mind-blowing. Thank you for the exposition and also the step we need to take as to mitigate against some of this, in as much as we know that what we are facing is inevitable and it's something that we are not hoping is going to just go away all of a sudden. But with the best we can do to try as much as we can to mitigate against it. So it's time for us to ask questions. So I don't know if there's any questions so far from anybody who would want to Ratoni to throw more light on areas we don't understand. I think he's very much available right now to attend to those questions before we go into prayers. Any question? If you have a question, please use the raise hand button so we can give you audience. Okay, Abra Innocent, yeah, I can see you now. Please unmute.
All right. Thank you so much, bro. Tony Osaebrown. We really missed you, and thank you so much for these words. It's really deep and eye-opening. So I just want to ask, how do we manage security? Because how do we manage security? Most of investment that requires you taking opportunities in other states, requires a whole lot of security, including buying of land, moving goods, and all of that. What's your advice on managing security? Thank you.
I think it's tough managing security because the whole security architecture is a bit messed up now. I think if you can get private players in the sector to help you, perfect. But I think one of the best way to manage security, especially when buying property, is credibility. Are you doing your own do as much due diligence as possible? Check that you are dealing with credible people. Otherwise, yeah, that way, at least that way you'll be sure. I think I always say these days, Google is your friend when you're dealing with anybody. One of the basic, maybe because I'm a journalist, I also use when I want to deal with some people I don't know, I just type fraud and their name together on Google. And if they've done anything, I just use different keywords just to type their names, just to see if they are credible people I'm dealing with. That's just a basic search. Then, of course, you need to talk to people. A lot of people make money from just due diligence. There are people whose specialty is due diligence. They just you call them and they will look around for you and make sure that the person you're dealing with is trustworthy in other ways. So that's one. And then sometimes if you may need to deal with the police personally, sadly so, to help you protect whatever you have to do. But it's not easy. That aspect is not easy. But if you can get private security or deal with the police, then you may need to just to cover that. That's something the government is supposed to do for us. Sadly, we have to look for ways around it ourselves.
Good evening, Chidi. How are you?
Good evening. Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Tony, for the answers. I want to believe that it was well answered to Innocent's satisfaction. Innocent, I think you're fine with the response. So if you don't want to go through the route of having a private person to do the the findings for you, you can as well go for the services of Nigeria Police for us, even though sometimes they can be crazy in their own way. But yeah, at least it's better to be safe than sorry. All right. So I don't know if there's any other question. Another person with the question for Mr. Tony.
Good evening, Brother Brain. I have a question.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Brother Tony. I have quite a number of questions, and I'm not sure there is enough time to answer all the questions, but I'll start. You mentioned that it's very likely the exchange rate would stay within the bracket of 1,315, but you included a caveat: if the government is not stupid. Yeah, I would like that you define stupidity here, because I know there are quite a number of Nigerians who are certainly not betting on the Naira to get any better. In fact, number of people who have moved their investments from Naira to foreign exchange to just hedge their risk. Are you saying it's advisable for such people to move their portfolio back to Naira and take advantage of maybe treasury bills or other government securities or other investments? And I think a follow-on to that question is, how else will the CBN manage the exchange rate other than the inflows, the FX inflows, and the primary source is our oil and gas? So if that is troubled, are we certain that the government can keep the Naira between the 1.3 and 1.5 you have mentioned? And also, I want you to advise also, inflation is, headline inflation probably around 30+%. Which investment would match that rate? Well, I won't say risk-free investment, but which investment would you advise, even with the risk, that will match that inflation and probably surpass the 30% mark? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, when I say the government doesn't get stupid, is trying to keep, so the Naira currently, most people think is undervalued. The stupid thing the government did, maybe early, was it in April, they tried to run down the reserves to protect the currency. And so we saw the currency appreciate strongly from around 1,006 to 1,100. And most of us were laughing because we knew it wasn't sustainable. At the end of the day, just as you said, our main source of income is oil and gas. So you need your reserves, you need that in to, sadly, our crude oil production hasn't gone up. So what we are using to sustain the Naira currently is the inflow from portfolio investors. That is not sustainable in the long run. So as long as the what is it called? The central bank doesn't feel it needs to have a stronger currency and leaves it where most people at where it is now, the inflows just match the outflows somehow. I know we've seen some pressures currently, and that's because of summer pressure. Interestingly, a lot of rich Nigerians are still traveling to UK for summer holidays, and that's putting some pressure on the currency. And then school fees pressure will come between now and September. But from September, those pressures will go down. We are having inflows from the World Bank. I think $2.2 billion from the World Bank. We have $1 billion from Afrexim. We have $1 billion, I think, from AFDB. We expect this government to raise the Eurobond of maybe $2 or $3 billion maybe before the end of the year. They're also trying to do some local bond, which is a wrong idea. So basically, the inflow, I think this evening we just said the central NNPC is trying to borrow $2 billion. So basically, if all these inflows are coming in, most likely, like the central bank said, the reserves today stands at $34.8 billion. That's the highest in about a year or so. I'll check. That's the buyers, and we think it's still going to go up. So basically, reserves are going up. If the central bank doesn't feel any need to start using the reserves to defend the currency unnecessarily, it can maintain with the amount of dollars coming in. The central bank can easily maintain the currency at where it is currently without much pressure. Mostly they do all the other things. The stupid thing will be running down the reserves to appreciate the currency to maybe 1,000 naira. That's where everything will deteriorate suddenly. So I think there's enough confidence in the system that the currency won't depreciate badly. If it goes down too much, the central bank can pump in some little reserves, and because we have enough money in the reserves right now to support the currency at where it is currently. So we don't expect it to depreciate significantly again. On what was the next question again? Okay, if you should sell no, I think if you change your currency into dollars, into naira, if you're still holding dollars, I won't change. Not well. Personally, because I'm confident about where the naira will be, if I see naira at where currently the naira today exchange at 1,532. If I had $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, I can risk changing maybe $2,000 into naira. Confident that naira won't depreciate beyond that. Depending on if you want to do a naira investment, this is possibly one of the best places you can get the naira currently. So if you're holding dollars and you have a naira investment that you think will appreciate, personally, I would take the risk. Maybe not change my whole dollar hoard, but I would take the risk of changing 50% of my dollar holdings to naira at current rates and do a naira investment. If I do a treasury bill, treasury bill is giving you 22% now, 20 to 22%. So that's what a dollar, holding your dollar can give you. So if I do a treasury bill at 22%, that's if I'm investing, let's say, ₦1,000,000, I'm getting 200,000 naira on it, which if you want to, you can reinvest again. So you can still make money, and I can, if my theory is right and the naira stays at this level or depreciates to somewhere 1,400, you can buy your dollar back at a cheaper rate. So because I think the dollar is likely to appreciate than depreciate, I'm willing to take the risk if I have a dollar investment of putting 50% in a naira. That is if I have a good naira investment to make. But if I don't have a good naira and I'm just saving for saving's sake, then I'll keep my currency in dollar for as long as possible and watch how Nigeria plays out. But this is the best time to buy naira assets with dollar holdings if you have dollar already, because you may never get them as cheap as they are currently. So I've been saying that there are a lot of developments coming along Lekki. I'm 100% sure that the Lekki Eco Hotel, Lekki Deep Sea Port road will be completed. If you have an opportunity to buy any asset along that axis with your dollar converted to naira currently, I'll buy, because I'm sure the returns will be far, far worth it in 2-3 years when they finish that road, because that whole axis will change dramatically when they finish that road. So those are some of the kind of investments. Which investment will give you rate of return? Most people, what they're taking is what they're doing, because we expect inflation to be at 20-25% by the end of the year. You can do a long end bond. Any bond that gives you 20%, 22%, 25% is what's investing in. Any treasury bills that give you 20%, 22%. That means by the end of year, that your treasury bill will be giving you more money than inflation rates, and most likely would have appreciated, because it will be because most other new yields, any new bonds that they will be issuing towards the end of the year will have lower yields. So your bond prices are likely to appreciate if you get into bond at current prices or at current interest rates, because by the end of the year, these current yields that we are seeing on bonds and treasury bills, we are not likely to see them again. So anytime, if you want to get into yields, into treasury bills now, or anything that will beat inflation, this is the time to get into it. Otherwise, you get into property, which is not really liquid, but at least in the long term covers you for inflation. Sorry, a bit complicated this thing, but I hope people understand what I said. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Tony. I want to believe you actually did justice to the question that Mr. Akwe asked, and if for any reasons you need more clarification or further conversation around this, like I said, you can come through me, and then we'll have that conversation. All right. So thank you so much. I don't know if there's still any other question, because our time is fast spent. Does anybody still want to ask any question? Okay, all right. In the absence of further question, so we want to sincerely appreciate you again. Once again, Mr. Tony, for honoring the invitation and taking our time to give us this a snippet on how we can, edge against the current inflation and crises that we face currently in the country. Be it the headline inflation or the food inflation. No, we are all in this, and we know how it is adversely affecting everybody's pocket. And so it is important that we know, what to do and how we can actually go about it. So thank you so much. And I want to believe that we've been able to enlighten a lot of us today on the kind of things we can do that can help us edge against the current situation in the country. So at this point,